Okay. All right. Welcome to Netti World Podcast. So I'd like to introduce this amazing human being right here. He has a PhD in International Humanitarian Aid. He has a BS in Business Technology, certified Cisco and Microsoft engineer. He has taken every certification Microsoft has to offer. At 19, he was the lead engineer at Microsoft. At 20, he started his own tech company. At 21, developed the very first private EMR system for Hawaii in the early 2000s. Serial entrepreneur, real estate developer, kicked out of the US's first tech school at age 19, consistently innovating and developing tech years ahead of its time, aimed at increasing human interaction virtually to develop an even better tomorrow while still utilizing the tech of today, like Zoom, DoorDash, and virtual reality, opening doors for everyone to make money, grow, and be part of the inevitable future of the metaverse and all it has to offer. Now, CEO of the Meta Suites, merging his passions for tech and real estate together, please welcome my good friend, Kahea Kamauu.
Man, that's a crazy intro. I'm like,
who is that guy?
Where's this guy? I want to talk to him. Awesome, man. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent.
No, welcome. We're glad to have you. So why don't you just kick it off by telling us a little bit about kind of what you're working on and what this whole MetaSuite thing is, and maybe a little bit about how you even got to this point to even develop this technology, because I know you have kind of a wide background.
Like Sage had mentioned earlier. So my claim to fame, or one of my claim to fames, is that I was kicked out of high school for hacking in the late 90s. And what transpired from that was Microsoft sending out people to come and hire me. So it was like this very low point in my life where I'm like kicked out of high school and feeling like I was going to be this loser, quote unquote, what my principal told me, to a few days later, Microsoft looking for me and offering me a job if I can at least finish high school. So at 19, like you mentioned, I was a lead tech engineer on the Windows 2000 development team. I had about 20 Microsoft engineers under me at 19 years old, and heavy in tech ever since then. A couple decades now in tech. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So when you got kicked out of high school, right, at 19, and then you said Microsoft approached you?
Microsoft sent people down to come find me. So Microsoft, it was a joint venture with Microsoft. So the White House, when they started this tech school, they had sponsors, right? So Microsoft sponsored probably all the operating systems and everything. HP sponsored all the computers, or the hardware, right? Servers.
Yeah.
And so Microsoft and the other sponsors, they were all aware that I had hacked their systems. And so they had sent someone down to actually ask me how I did it, first of all, and then offer me a job.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. So like, I think that one of the things that's most impressive about you is, I feel like even from like an early age, when you were hacking and you were in the first technology school in the United States for tech, and then you went on and created your own business when you were, as early as 21, I believe. And then you built out the first EMR system for Hawaii, which was like years ahead of its time. Yeah. How are you always able to think about, I guess, the future of technology and place yourself in front of it before everybody else? Because it seems like you really have a good eye and brain for that.
For me, it was actually just use cases. It was going, well, once you've gotten pretty deep in technology and you understand the advantages of using it, it was kind of going, well, why are we still, like EMRs, for example, why are we still using charts? And then my background, my father was in the military, so we moved, right, constantly moving. And so then you would go to one doctor's office and they would have their folder and chart of all the stuff that you had, but you're only there for a year, right? And then you go to another doctor's office. Well, that guy got to get the charts or faxed over to them, whatever, from the prior one. So it was kind of going, well, if everything was just electronic, we just had one file of our medical history, it'd be so much easier for doctors to assess and things like that, right? And so we already had all the technology there. It's just having people put it together. In the early 2000s, EMRs were actually part of that explosion of the .com world. So this was happening a lot in the mainland. It was becoming something that was going to be the norm later, and Hawaii wasn't there yet.
So I know that, you said kind of like that explosion, you saw that coming. I know with the meta suites and even the digital, space and the digital verse and getting people kind of collectively in that, how do you see that explosion into the future now? Because obviously that's one of your main focuses right now with your company Meta Suite. So where is that going, and how does that lens look?
So this is how I start out in Meta Suites, and to give a baseline of what Meta Suites is, first of all. So Meta Suites is, we've developed full functional virtual offices. They have all the functionality of a physical office combined with the advantages of Web3. Why did I even endeavor into this project? I've actually always wanted to develop this project, and I just felt like even 8-9 years ago, we're just so far ahead of its time. It wasn't worth putting the time and effort into it at that point, right? And now I think we are, which is why I'm so excited. But when COVID happened, it forced a lot of us to become remote in the way we worked, interacted, and everything else, right? And during COVID, it was a personal use case of mine of going, if I had a virtual office that I could actually interact with my employees or staff, we could have more genuine meetings, and brainstorming sessions would be more authentic, attention spans would be more, people would be more involved in the meeting, versus Zoom, where I was noticing a trend in the beginning of COVID, when Zoom happened, when Zoom became the way to meet for business. People were dressed up, right? And they had their ties on still, like they were literally dressed up, even though we all knew everybody's home. And then that quickly degraded to slippers and bathrobes and just paused screens, right? Paused cameras. And so how genuine is our conversations or interaction virtually if I'm looking at people's names and not even looking at their faces anymore? And the reality is, if you pause your camera, I know you're doing 3-4 other things on the side. I am too. If I mute my mic, it's because I'm trying to talk to someone else real quick or slowly type while I'm still staring at the camera, right? But all those things are happening. And so I'm going, well, I'm a big face-to-face type person. I can't get rid of the idea that we're going to be working remotely. I mean, that's here to stay and it's going to continue. So how do we interact more authentically, virtually? And that's where this came from. Developing Meta Suites gives me the opportunity, or gives anybody the opportunity, to have a more authentic interaction as humans virtually, where I now bring you guys into an environment, my office. You came visit, and now we can talk. And we can discuss things, and you could be in Ecuador, and you could be in Africa, and I could be in, I don't know, Canada or something, right? But we're all meeting together collectively in a shared space at that moment.
And we're also experiencing, I guess the same type of feeling that we would if we were like we are right now here in your office. That's
the objective, right? Is to create a realistic experience. And then the whole advantages of Web3 brings a whole another aspect to it that we couldn't do physically in an office.
So as a person, like an everyday person that's using this, so that way I understand, I could basically go on my phone, hop on Zoom, be doing something completely different, but be portrayed as if I'm right in front of you, right?
Now there's that aspect, right? There's our Zoom aspect. So we integrated Zoom into our virtual offices, and you can actually jump onto Zoom calls right now. This fully works. You can jump onto Zoom calls as an avatar, animated avatar, and discuss in the meeting and look like a person that's sitting in an office in LA downtown, or it could be on the beach or wherever, right? But it's an animated character, an animated office, a virtual office. And so that just opens the doors to a whole slew of other things, right? Like that's our other version where it allows you to really have your phone on the ground or phone on the seat and you're talking while you're driving. But what the participants see on the other side is a character looking at them, talking to them.
Right.
So
So I could be sipping on pina colada, I could be working out, and it looks like I'm still in the office.
Yep. That's a light version, very simple version of the Zoom Meta Suites. Yeah, very cool, actually.
And I thought something that you kind of told us prior was that you can also be in an office with your other coworkers there and kind of everybody hanging out, and you can hop in a Lamborghini, drive out the window, and just start racing if you want to.
Yep. Yeah, we gamified it, right? So we have this ability to have all the aspects of work in an office for sure, right? And then we try to mix that with having some fun and activities and other experiences virtually. So yeah, one of them being like having a Lambo inside the office. All of our offices have Lambos in them, or maybe they're not technically Lambos, but they're some kind of brand, right? Super fast car, supercar. But yeah, you jump in that car and let's say you get done with the meeting, and now you're like, I want to go do something fun. Jump in the Lambo, and so you picture this Lambo in an office, like a penthouse suite of an office building, all glass, floor-to-ceiling windows, right? And there's a Lambo in there. And so you jump in the Lambo, you floor it, it crashes through the window at the top of the building too, and you're gonna fall out of that window, and you're gonna land down below on the highway. And what happens is Meta Suites is gonna send out a signal to anybody else that's in the offices at that moment, and say, Rasta Sage would like to race anybody. Race starts in 30 seconds. Meet him on the highway, right? And then anybody else could be running to their car like, hey, I'm in my office. I'm gonna race Sage, man. I got him. And Rage with Sage is over there like, nah, you ain't got me. And I drove my Lambo and I crashed out there and I landed over there and I said, we start racing.
We're gone.
Right? And so it's just having the aspects, and that's actually Web3 as well, where we're taking the advantages of having this fun, interactive, other experiences happening where your office then could be involved, not just for office meetings, but also have activities.
And I thought this was a pretty cool aspect to what you're building, and also even a little bit, kind of trippy, is that you could actually go inside of the Meta Suite. I can pop on my headset, and I could open up a virtual computer, and then that computer is going to show my computer in that world. So it's kind of playing off a mirror of each other, which means that if I wanted to, I could go in there and just work with a colleague, or even if I'm a freelancer, go in there, have like meetings and show my ideas, and everything could be done inside that world, and I could snap my fingers and have any type of reality around me.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what happens is our virtual offices work in either 2D, so desktop version, like you could sit here, mouse and keyboard, right? Or you could have an actual virtual experience, pop on your headset, and be inside your office and fully enveloped in a virtual office, right? So what happens is then the idea behind that is that you could have your phone connected to a virtual headset, be inside your office, and inside your office, that laptop is connected remote PC to your desktop computer back at your house or whatever, right? But you could be at the beach or something. All you needed was your phone and the headset, boom, and now you're in virtual office. Now you can tap onto your other computer. Now you can access files. Now you can do presentations, meet with people, and all of that from like the comfort of a beach in Thailand. That's kind of the idea.
That's cool.
No, and then I was just gonna say, because just this one idea off that is that something else that I really, really liked about the idea is, so for me, like Steve Jobs, he's an entrepreneur that I always look up to. So I know that when he was first pitching his idea about what Apple was gonna be, it's like a classic story. He goes into an empty warehouse, brings the investors, and then he kind of gets everybody enroped or entangled inside of the idea of what it's going to be. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really powerful about the technology you can do. And this is really something people have to see, is that you can actually bring people in a virtual space or a virtual room and actually show them your idea without it just being verbal. You can actually create that from your mind and have them feel it and experience it.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the idea behind having the virtual experiences is that we're bringing you visual and sound and basically taking you away from wherever you're at for that moment to whatever my space is at that moment, right? Whatever environment I want to create. What that does is that I now have your full attention. Similar to like if you're going to go visit someone at their office, you walk into their office, it's now their office. They got your attention somewhat, a lot better than at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so bringing you into our virtual office, that environment can be whatever it wants to be, or whatever we want it to be, right? But we've got your full attention, and you've got the visual effect of feeling like you're actually in there, and you're looking around, and you're talking to other, I guess it doesn't have to be humans, but it can be anything, right? And now I have the ability to present to you of any manner as well, like, and that's what we're talking about, 3D objects and those kind of things, like having a very enhanced presentation, but everything's a lot more in depth than just a simple Zoom call. And that's why I go back to increase authentic human interaction. It's like have a lot more interaction with the space just using technology. So
That's awesome, because you can sell any idea and do almost anything, and that kind of ties into kind of like some of the ideas you were telling me, like what you can really utilize this with. And because I really like the concept that you said, like, this is how people are going to make money off of this, and this is how people are going to benefit financially, and then everything kind of stems from that, right? So what are some of those, like, I guess if you could share some of the ideas, like workshop,
like use
convention,
cases
seminars.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the mid offices, so what we have is we have some pre-designed layouts. Now these are fully customizable offices, so you can move your furniture around any way you want. But we have like the pre-designed default settings that people can use as well. And it's the conference room setting. That's our default. Large table, a bunch of chairs surrounding it, and you're able to go in and have conference boardroom type style meetings, right? You have the ability to on the fly switch or remove all the furniture. And it's an empty room that could become like a yoga studio, right? You can have the furniture set up like seminar mode, where the table goes away, conference table goes away, you have rows of chairs, and a stage appears at the end of the room under a big screen. And now you've got seminar mode. But the concept is that anybody can take this suite. We use Office a lot, but anybody can take this suite and transform it into any style that they want. A doctor could use it for telemed. Therapists could use it for their patients for virtual therapy, right? An attorney could use it to meet with clients virtually, to just typical office meetings. Why that's important is the back end is so important. So therapists, for example, there's talk therapy is becoming a pretty large platform in itself, because we're now aware of mental health. We're becoming a lot more aware of mental health than we were 10 years ago. And therapy has been increasing. But typically what's going on right now is you're meeting with your therapist over Zoom. But a therapist using our software or platform could actually have host therapy sessions and create environments that are particular to that client. So let's say that you like to have therapy sessions in a log cabin in the Sierras in the snow, because that just gives you the most comfort for you to open up. On the fly, that therapist could have one of our virtual offices that could host your therapy session, and on the fly she or he could change the environment so it's ready for you when you enter. And now you have a full amazing experience virtually through therapy session versus what you do on Zoom. It's gonna be a lot more effective, right? We're stimulating emotions and light and all this, everything else.
Rather than being just in an office that you might not even be familiar with.
Well, typically, right now it's just Zoom, so you're just sitting there looking, in 2D and talking to the person, they're talking to you. That's like a lot of therapists right now are just doing that virtual, just through Zoom. And I'm saying we could actually put you in an environment, and therapists could be there as well. So now it's kind of like, if a therapist could offer that type of service, that's even further than what they could do physically. If you just came to their office, they couldn't like change the walls and all of a sudden have a log cabin for you in 5 minutes. But on the fly, they could do that for you in a couple of seconds.
Exactly.
And I think just to add, I think that's very powerful for both the consumer, the person, as well as the therapist, or even just anybody who's trying to portray or even evoke like emotion. Because typically now, if you were going to therapy, you'd have to sit down in a chair and then kind of talk in an uncomfortable environment in an office, versus in this world, you can go into your room and snap your fingers. Is very custom to the person.
Yeah, it's custom to the person, right? Maybe my comfort area is sitting on a beach in the sand, and I'm gonna open up more there, whatever, right? Like, and with therapy, it's great because that's just one use case of going in a patient type style setting, right? Telemed. We use the word telemed a lot, but do we actually use telephone medicine? No. And we're actually using some type of video chat now and things like that, right? So, but that's not going to be virtual med. So it's telemed, not virtual med. Then there's, obviously we talk about office use cases, all that, right? I can meet with you in person. You could be in a different country, you could be in a different country, I could be in a different country, but collectively we could be in the same room at the same time. There's no need to, as our software develops further, where then becomes the use that I need to fly to China to go meet with, let's say you, just so that we could have a meeting in person. Like, at what point then do we not really have to do that as much anymore? I mean, we have found that it's useful to jump on Zoom, but to travel for 3 days to have a meeting in person, we're going to find that as our world continues to adapt to the ability to speed things up faster and to get things done faster, we're going to adapt to using virtual type settings more often than traveling for 3 days just to have a meeting in person.
Yep. I can see the benefit in that too. Is we were just talking with Lee Steinberg.
Yeah.
He was Patrick Mahomes' agent, right? And he has this, and what he's doing is, I think it's the concussion and everything is very important. Mental health with athletes are very, very much a front line in what he's trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
And one thing he said was there was a counselor or therapist in there, and she was talking about how, well, what if he, like, I don't want to say his name, but there's a person that had a court case that is now playing football again, which is good for him. But it was like, well, what if he was actually sexually abused? And Lee was like, well, if you could get him to really, bring that out and say that happened, that would solve so many other problems. But it's getting him to say that in a comfortable space is a very, very hard thing. And what you're saying is like, well, what if this could be something for therapists to get people in such a comfort that they could actually really reveal what that deep pain is? Yeah. That could solve so much in mental health. And that's something that it seems like what you have developed. I mean, out of the endless possibilities, there are such important things that could solve so many cases, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the patient doctor setting or therapist setting is huge, all the way down to, it's just one more step in the right direction. Having the ability to meet with your doctor virtually, and he can bring up your x-rays and all that. So you don't even have to go to the doctor's office, wait in the waiting room forever, blah, 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 right? So much downtime to be able to just have the doctor ping you and say, hey, I'm ready. Okay, cool. I'm gonna pop in your office now, right? And then he's able to bring up your x-ray charts and review things about your health virtually. So then it's kind of going, okay, so what if I were to meet with him physically, other than him needing at that point to evaluate your body physically, if it's the show charts, talk about things and outcomes, all of that can happen virtually. And then you look at different things like Go Forward, and they're trying to push the body and medical exams in all these different places. You imagine if we were to partnership with Go Forward or these other types of brands to then push that once the person or patient had their examination and it's all uploaded, then the doctor utilizing our software could then meet with them virtually, and it could be ongoing, right? There's no need then for physical meetings with a doctor anymore at that point, and even examinations can happen, like X-rays and all that can happen at quick little in and out points. And so, and that's just one example, right? Teachers, teaching classrooms, certifications, vast majority of things that we learn online are now done virtually, that then you could still have an in-depth learning experience a lot better than a PowerPoint or a slideshow kind of course. But yeah, everything can be a lot more in-depth, and that's what we call the advantage of Web3.
So I wanna talk to the business side a little bit, because as people hear about this, there's kind of like this fear that you don't want to miss the boat, but it's also this scary unknown. But the reality of everything about the digital space and the metaverse and everything that's coming is that there's literally billions of dollars being poured into this. I know that you have said that some people have even approached you for the technology that you're building. So why are all these people so excited about this technology? Like, how are people? What does the business side of this look like?
For the business side of this, it just propels us forward. It is going to allow us to do things a lot faster and bring new experiences to either captivate customers or for businesses to have better interaction. I mean, COVID really pushed us in a place to be forced to do things remotely. That then sped up this timeline of virtual experiences happening faster. So the development, like even Metaverse, and of course we got Facebook renamed as Meta, the direction is that we're headed into a place now where we're just, it's like what it says, it's Web 2.0 and now we're 3.0. We're just upgrading to adapt to new technologies, allow us to do things quicker, faster, efficient, and have better experiences at it.
So I guess what interests me a lot is when you kind of explained really what that future looks like. Like, I think you were telling me there's virtual malls and lobbies, and I could bring dates into the metaverse, and that there's a way I'm going to be able to collect rent and all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, like, for a lot of us that goes way past our head, but then you see it happen, right? It's like, wow, I don't want to miss that boat or that train. Like, what does that world look like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So we, I'll tell what we're building and what we're developing. And yeah, our the Meta offices, which is what we're selling now. We're selling virtual offices, right? That of itself is an amazing product. It's something that people can use now, right? But we've continued to expand that. Every office building has a lobby. So we've built out this really large lobby that hosts thousands and thousands of people. And the best way for me to explain it is it's like WeWork meets Discord virtually, right? So it's a place where entrepreneurs, business people, or anybody people can come in, and there's meeting areas throughout this lobby where people can walk up, post a topic, and it's a public forum in a way. So public discussions. And they'll have their area, they post a topics floating above their little table, and other people walking by could join their discussion. Maybe it's maybe one table's talking about interest rates for the mortgages, right? And another one's talking about Ethereum's prices today or something, like crypto's prices. Another one's talking about stocks, and right, whatever. You're walking through the lobby, you're like, hey, I want to jump into one of those discussions, great. But in those discussions are like Twitter Spaces, but it's virtual now, right? So you're sitting there at the table and actually looking at people, and you guys are having a conversation, open discussion. But aside from that, you also have this main stage where it's like a venue for concerts or TED Talks or conventions or things like that. So that's our lobby. Now the lobby continues to expand to go, what are the other use cases of meeting up virtually? Like, what do we do when we meet up? physically? Well, we meet up for lunch, meet up for dinner, we go out on dates, we meet up for office meetings, we meet up for sports, we meet up, right? So all the different things that you meet up for is what we're looking to develop. Restaurants are typical because a huge percentage of our meetups involve eating of some sort, right? So, hey, meet me at the coffee, meet me for coffee, meet me for dinner, meet me for lunch, right? All that kind of happens. So we started to develop concepts of virtual restaurants, and the restaurants would have, when you're delivered your menu at the table, it would be experiences that the restaurant offers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we go to a restaurant, most times it's just to spend time with the other people of some sort, and to experience, create memory, those kind of things, right? Most of us go to meet up for that. If it's strictly just to eat, well, we could do that at home and just eat real quick, right? But we go out to different restaurants for experience. And so that's what it would be virtually. You could then host dates that way. You can, we have an integration that we're working on with DoorDash, where you can actually order food, have it delivered to your house while you're in our virtual setting, or delivered to where you're at, and pay for the other people's food as well.
You could buy us pizza.
I can pay you guys pizza, so you guys could. So yeah, here's a simple example of all that. We're like, hey guys, let's watch the football game on Sunday. We're all in different countries, but hey, meet me in my virtual suite, whatever. And I got pizzas coming to all you guys, right? Because as soon as you guys log in, your profile's set up, you're able to tell, like, if I try to order pizza for you guys, the thing will pop up asking to verify your address and all that kind of stuff of where you're at, so that food gets delivered, that kind of stuff. But all of that then creates a more in-depth meeting, I guess, for us virtually, right? It's not like, and I hate using the word Zoom, because it's not just Zoom, it's just like video conferencing in general. This just takes it to a whole nother level. It literally will make us feel like we really did hang out for a couple hours, watched a video game or football game, we ate some pizza and laughed.
But it makes it real. I remember in the beginning of COVID, when Zoom was coming out, people were having drink parties. Right? Like, let's drink together. Like, hey, how about I'll join you for a drink, And people were having little drink parties online in the beginning of COVID. And what you're doing, though, is it's not just having that because we're stuck at home. It's creating an experience with my friends, because you're traveling to, you're always out there just helping the world, right? You're traveling across the whole entire earth, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Sage, let's watch a football game.
Yeah, still
let's have a pizza
with people that you want to spend time with. No matter where you are in the world. And so that's what virtual reality allows us to do.
That's awesome.
And I loved how, just to drive this point, how you created the personal world, the world that we live in now, right? And then you have the virtual world, and you're talking about like user, or I guess case studies where you could basically combine those worlds together. So I actually like this story a lot. You said, imagine if you can go to a Chinese restaurant and you sit down with a girl that you're just dating, or a guy, right? And you look at the menu, instead of ordering physical food, you can order an experience, but then you can also order physical food. So you can be in two different locations, have food come to your house, whether you're at work, you're with a person, and then if you wanted, one of those experiences could be like, hey babe, I did some fireworks show for you, and that's your name right there, don't worry about it, I got it. Or you can even go out to the mall and go shopping and go inside the stores, and it's just kind of driving this whole community where you're not just existing in one world, but you can exist in both. So you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, shopping experiences are going to be a whole new level. It's going to be a whole new experience. I love the click in shopping. Like I love click, buy, send to my house. But every now and then I need to get something quick, and so I have to run to Target or wherever, right, and grab this stuff. But what virtual shopping is going to do for you is that when you kind of have the best of both worlds, some people prefer walking down aisles and actually looking at the product somewhat and checking it out before buying. And that's what virtual shopping is going to allow you to do, except for the fact that you don't have to walk down 20 aisles find that thing. I mean, all of us have probably been there. Like we're guys probably gone through Home Depot. It takes forever to get that one little item, and there's never a shopping assistant or assistant around available, and so you're not wandering aisles. You're walking in for a shopping experience. You're searching for what you need. It's zooming you to that aisle immediately or whatever, right? And you grab the item and you walk right out of the store. There's no cashier waiting, lines in front of the cashier waiting to check out. All that stuff's removed. And so you take all the best experiences of shopping. Really interesting, especially in UE. Lighting is so can be difficult to try to figure out. You can get whitewashed out and stuff, but yeah, it's all over cameras. And so, wait, I was talking to you, right? Or who was I talking to?
About what sort?
Explain like the
laptop.
Well, both of us.
You were
Yeah.
telling us both.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can.
I'm confused because I had done a few Zooms lately with people.
I'll walk them through it.
Yeah, there's a few investors that were wanting to check out what we were doing, and so I was walking them through all this stuff. So why don't I explain a couple things
Go ahead.
so that it'll help you guys understand that I was kind of breaking down. So sorry,
Give me some room.
hitting you.
No, you're fine.
Oh, well, we got two different computers on. So this computer is this.
Mm-hmm.
But when I change the screen over to input, then this is all the Mac, the other ones that we're on. If that makes sense.
Yep.
But what the overall layout, just so you kind of have some more concept here, because then you might be like, hey, I'll add this to the interview question or not.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not, because we may not want to go that deep on stuff. But what we're building here, I'm going to show you some stuff. So Meta Suites, malls as well. So what's going to happen is we have Meta Office, right? That you already experienced going through there, and we have the different professional, executive, founder suites, right? But what's going on in the back end is what's creating like the use cases. So talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So therapists will be able to sign up, utilize an office, and then meet with their clients and create an environment that they can have or hold therapy session in for that client. One client might want to be in the woods while they do light therapy, and you can actually do light therapy in the office with the client with their VR headset, or it could be in a log cabin setting or something like that. Other portals will be for courses. Other portals will be for virtual medicine, so like telemed, well, virtual med.
Mm-hmm.
And then others will be based upon rentals, as they can rent out their offices that are customized for a unique experience that you and I would actually we'd like lease out.
Yeah.
We would say, oh, you know what? I want to go check out that Board 8 office and host a virtual staff meeting in that office for the day, and be like, hey, I'm going to have all my staff join. They're all over the world, and hey, I rented the Board 8 office, right? And he has all these Board 8s in there that are actually owned by him, so he has the ability to put them in the room, and then you're sitting at the table and everybody's like, oh, this is like really cool, all decked out. So all of that's all built in different backends that all cross with each other, right? So that's what makes this portion create revenue for the people that own it, right? And that continues to expand. The lobby, obviously dynamic lobby, continues to grow. Stage gatherings, TED Talks, like everything going on there, right? And as that gets bigger, like comedy night, every week we're going to try to link up with Laugh Factory and those kind of guys and try to either display comedy night here, but eventually it would be nice that the comedian is interacting with the people in the lobby, right? Where we could actually just get comedians from LA that are just trying to get recognition, and they could actually take moments to be on the stage and do that kind of stuff. So artists in general having an opportunity to be on open mic, but then that creates an ad space, right? More traffic, more flow, ad space, and becomes a big thing, which is why we have the plug, NFT plugs. So all of that's going on over here, concert venues, virtual meetings, virtual spaces, and all that. This will also tie into this. This is our Meta Mall. Meta Mall is the next generation of Google search virtually. So like right now we go to like Google and we search and we look for something we're shopping for, or Amazon, we look for something we're shopping for. In the future, along with Walmart's already, Victoria's Secret, all these different large brands have already started pulling their patents for virtual shopping. Then you would come into our mall, and what you would see in the mall would be far different than what I'm going to see. Like the layout of the mall may be the similar, right? Like we go inside the mall, grab an interior picture here. And I may see like something like this, but just like Google search, what you search for pulls up differently than what I search for, even if we have the same keyword.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other analytics behind it that say that if I search for a book, it might be roses and daisies books because I was always so interested in fields and flowers, whatever. And you might be like action and swords and kill everybody. And those books come up, right?
Yeah.
So that's all analytics. So you walk into our mall and the stores that you're going to see are going to be different than mine. And that's what's going to have our shops. So that's where Meta Office and Meta Shops come in play. And Meta Shops is the virtual shops, Shopify virtually, plug and play style, where people that have e-commerce websites can have a virtual site in a matter of minutes just by plug and play. These guys then are able to, for an additional monthly fee, be added into the mall search, just like you would pay for Google ads.
Yeah.
And now you would have a searchable shop in the virtual mall. So all of that's kind of happening. That's what we're already building. And that's why it's so, it's vast, because to keep it simple, we have to keep it to the Meta Office for now, but then as things grow, people will start realizing that's just branched out. The whole concept behind all of this is basically comes down to two things: helping people generate more revenue and helping people have more authentic human interaction virtually. Right? All of this then expands into dating. There's another area that we're going to have, virtual dating. So then you get with Match.com and all these different people, and you created all these experiences, like including restaurants. So people that have offices could own a restaurant that operates in the lobby. It's a virtual restaurant. We give them the space. Restaurants are floating around in the lobby, and they're able to then create experiences for people. When you go to the restaurant with someone, you're not, well, I guess for Hawaiian, we go there for food, but you, like, a lot of times you're going there for the experience of companionship or whatever it is with that person. It's a relationship issue or a thing or whatnot issue. So you would go, let's say, sit down with your girlfriend or wife or whatever, right? You go to the restaurant, hey, meet me, babe, in the meet me in Meta Suites. Let's go meet up at the Chinese restaurant, right? So you go there and you guys are both sitting down. Active employees are actually working in there. Other couples are actually in there as well, eating, enjoying dinner per se. But what's going on in the menu is you have a list of things that are experiences, and then you pay for the experience, $5 for this, $10 for that, $20 for that. And maybe it's like in the Chinese restaurant, is Dancing Dragon comes in and like does something, but like it's a custom experience for you guys. Maybe it's a fireworks show pops up with her name in the fireworks.
So you would see it in the room if there's other users, but the other users wouldn't see it. That's how you build it?
Depends on the experience, right? You can make it private. Like if you're sitting in one of the restaurants that's lakefront, and you're sitting there and there's a whole bunch of other chairs, and maybe you want to shoot the fireworks and want everybody to see it, and you're like, and it has, you know, Lizzie's name on it and the fireworks, and you're like, hey babe, see, I shot some fireworks for you, right? Like the menu is based on experiences. But what's cool with that is that we're already working with DoorDash to integrate DoorDash into our suites, just like we did Zoom, so that you actually would have a menu sitting there as well. And you could actually, so she would have, let's say that she's in Ecuador and you're here. Well, DoorDash, I don't know, it's in Ecuador. Let's try Texas and California first, right? But she would actually be looking at the menu, you know, hey babe, just go ahead and order, but I got it. And so then what we're creating is a way that DoorDash would allow another user to pay for that person's meal.
Okay.
So she's like, yeah, these are the restaurants near me, so I'm gonna pick them out. This is what I want. I don't want it delivered to me, but then you're like, yeah, I got the tab. All of a sudden it sends it over to you, you pay for it, you pay for your meal. 20 minutes later, you guys actually have food at your table eating while you're having that experience with her in virtual.
I got you. So it's like a mix of virtual and reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're actually eating dinner with her. And that's the same thing with the mall. When you're walking through the mall, there will be kiosks for food and a food court. But the food court and the kiosks for food will be based upon restaurants that are linked into the API for DoorDash in your area, because wherever you tapped in from virtually, those food places will be available for you. So you can walk up to the kiosk, literally in the virtual, and it could be like Burger King, and you'd be like, hey, I want to order this and that. Yeah, I want to order this. All right, cool. Your order will be there in 20 minutes. All of a sudden, sends the DoorDash guy, and then doorbell rings. You grab your food, and you're still in the mall shopping, but now you actually have food that you bought virtually that came physically.
What's crazy is you could even say that increases DoorDash's experience to their customers.
Yeah.
Because normally you're just on your phone, but now you could actually feel like, oh, I'm actually going to the restaurant to order DoorDash.
Yep. Yeah, we've been speaking with them. They're really big on seeing if we can figure out how to integrate their API for it to work. And then the idea of even allowing someone else to pay for the meals. Because why is that big? Well, when we hold business meetings and we go to we're trying to replicate all the things you do physically that first of all surrounds an office or a space, a meeting space, right? Whether it's a yoga studio down to whether it's a conference meeting. But even if you had a conference meeting, and even if it was a few hours, typically you're going to order food or water or just something, right? Mm-hmm. And so even if we're sitting in the conference room and we're all together gathered, the boss or whoever owns that suite will have the ability to say, hey guys, go ahead and jump on your DoorDash, grab whatever meal's near you, I'll take care of it, right? And then they all swipe over the bill to him. He's at the end of the table. Yep, pay. Sounds good. Hey, dude, I'm not freaking spending $20 on your stupid burrito down the street. Whatever. No, you get pizza, or whatever, right? But he can approve all the orders, and now people are actually eating while they're having the meeting, and so, and it just keeps growing from there. Like even in the lobby, the restaurants will be floating up above. And the people that own the restaurants will pay us a lease for the lobby, but then actually but they'll make money from the experiences. So they'll have to make sure that they create really cool experiences on their menu that would make you guys want to go and check it out, right? Dating is going to be a huge aspect. Digital, it takes away all the anxiety of meeting somebody in real life that you just met online, and you're scared about meeting them because they might be crazy. Whether a girl or guy, girls are crazy too, right? A girl goes and meets a guy, all of a sudden she gets, I don't know, freaking kidnapped or whatever, right? Like something crazy happens. You hear all the stories. Well, this way she can actually spend an evening with him virtually, and can kind of maybe get a better sense of the type of person he is, versus having to go there physically and meet him.
So how do you? This is just like an interesting question as far as security goes, right? Because let's just say you have that. How do you prevent someone from impersonating someone else? You know what I mean? Where they could just log in. Did you build that into it, or how does that?
What we're building into it is just verification from social media.
Got it.
Right. So they can say, oh, Facebook verified, Instagram verified, Twitter verified, whatever. So someone that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok verified.
They're probably not.
At least you can know that those are their actual Instagram handles or whatever, and then from there you can check it out. We can't verify whether or not they're crazy, but we can at least verify that it's someone that also has a profile somewhere, and all four of those profiles could be fake, right? But at least it gives you a little more research to go, if it really was Jennifer Lopez and she is verified, then yeah, it might be Jennifer Lopez talking to you, cheating on her husband. Is she married still?
They're probably going through a divorce right now. Again.
I think she's again.
I keep track. But you know what I mean? So we can't verify if someone's crazy. I mean, we also can't verify if someone's impersonating. We really can't. But we can verify that they got connected to certain social media platforms. That we can. because it could be a hacker anyways that hacked the platform, connected it, whatever.
So you know what I was thinking too when you were talking about this is because like it sounds like for like a lot of the experiences you're gonna bring out like a virtual, but then also an in-person experience. So then for the other stores as they build it up, is that gonna be like the angle? Like if you're gonna go into metaverse down the line, like you should try to incorporate like real life experience with a virtual experience. Is that like the better play, or you think it's just we can make it all virtual and everybody would be?
It's a mixture because it depends on the experience, right? Like,
Mhm.
and obviously, the more realistic the experience, more amazing, I guess, the person's gonna have, right? The more entertainment the person has for that experience, I guess, or whatever you say. But it doesn't. Here's the thing, though, too, is that all of this works in 2D. So you could just be mouse and keyboard going like that, but that's still more involved than a Zoom or a
Mhm.
phone call late at night. Like even if I had to go, like the other day, even if we popped up and just had the regular avatars, and you're on that laptop and I was over here, and we're just talking to each other like that, that's still a little more involved. You still feel a little more interaction than you do if you're just on a phone, I guess, or Zoom or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to our mission statement, right? We're wanting, like, we literally want to increase authentic human interaction virtually. And so it's taking Zoom and all these other ones to the next level. And so it's crazy because we go, like, Meta Mall will be a better name for it. But, I mean, look at, that's back in March. We started creating the concept of this. And then, and that's continued to evolve. But we call it AI, right? But it's just analytics, Google Analytics. And so, to keep it short and sweet, the starter point is really the suites, the offices, because then from there, people start to utilize the functionality of what we built just in here. And then from there, it grows, right? They can run over to the lobby and walk in the lobby, and all of a sudden they're, wow, that's amazing. This lobby's cool. There's so much stuff going on over here, right? And we're connected to Decentraland. We're connected to Monaverse, and we're connected to, there's a few other metaverses. And we integrate the ability for people to just walk in and out, right? Because we're not trying to be a focal point. We're just trying to offer the ability for people to have this function. So it's not just like Monaverse, you just walk in, walk around, and you're like, cool. And that's about it. Like you can look at art.
Experience.
Yeah, you can look at art, right? And then, but I mean, how often do people want to go to art museums that like is rarely full, other than the Louvre? like that's the only one I ever waiting in line for. And so this gives them something, a utility for them to actually use.
Makes sense. So what do you think is like the best, I guess if you were to break it down into two angles, because I get the business application for it, but then I know you want to target users first. What do you think is like the best features like an everyday person can use right out the gate to kind of wrap their head around the metaverse? Someone that's brand new to the metaverse, right?
I think the beginning would be our light version for the app, phone app, right? Download the app. It has an avatar in there, the customizable avatar, and jump into Zoom meetings. Basic, simple, it's fun to do. Might even come out as a joke or whatever, right? But it's like a funny joke thing to do. But then after a while, it's the more you start to use that, you're like, oh wow, I can actually use this as a use case. How often do I pause my camera? Well, pausing the camera and seeing a static image is still boring to the other users, other participants. So they would still have a little more like when I talked to, actually, that's a good question. When I was talking to you guys as an avatar, did it feel, I mean, it probably felt a little less authentic than a human, but would you say better than a paused camera that just had my name on there or something?
Yeah, it definitely kept me more engaged rather than just pause camera. Because I know even this morning we had a Zoom meeting, and it's like, you have the only thing you see when someone pauses is a black screen,
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh, well, that person's not listening to me. Like they're just
or they're
somewhere in the
phone down.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus just like, okay, this avatar's there, and at least I see your face, and I'm like, oh, he must be listening at the very least. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it does. So and then even like how we talked, like the idea of going, hey, do it on an app version, laying out in a lounge chair, sipping pina coladas, but I'm talking, and the other side feels like I'm staring at them, looking at them, where my mouth is moving, because our brain kind of works that way. It just kind of automatically assumes what I see is this person looking at me. So it's got to be that. And then it keeps your attention, and so I think just even the light version of just that, and it doesn't have to be Zoom. We have Zoom in there, but it can be like, what is it, Microsoft Meetings, or what are the other ones? I never use them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The
Like
video.
like if you were to go on Slack and you do like a Slack call, Slack meeting, just
Slack
talking
do
about
video?
like that. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is a good question. As far as like if you're an everyday person now, and you're trying to position yourself to be a little bit more ahead of the curve for everybody else,
Yeah.
how does having like basically meta suites or even just entering into the metaverse like really propel you forward and put you ahead of everybody else? Like how important do you think that is? Does
The
it make
importance,
sense?
yeah. The importance is based upon the ability to utilize the technology that's being built,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's, and this is where it goes from, there's a physical office that we built, or the virtual office that we built that we've tried to replicate like a physical office. Okay, that's all cool, right? But we could all just go meet like this. So then, why would we want Web3? Why do we want the metaverse? It's for all the advantages that Web3 brings to the table. It's for the fact that you and I, we all sit here physically, and I can't just pop up a Mustang in my hand and go, hey man, check out this 69 Mustang, and here's something that I have a question about. See right here in the engine, I'm zooming in like Iron Man. But we can do that in the offices. You could do that in any type of object. Yeah, we could create a 3D printer. We could have a 3D printer print objects, but we can't well, first of all, it's going to take hours to do that, right? And then you're sitting there wasting money to actually have some type of example for me to then show you, and it took hours to do it. But Web3 allows me in an instance to show you a new environment or object or anything digitally for us to discuss.
I think I have a cool. So put it from the. So we'll start from the small, the everyday person, to then work up to the business. So as far as like the everyday person, right, it's gonna make me a lot different. But like even if I'm like a freelancer, if I'm like an everyday guy, right, just trying to freelance, now I can bring people into my world and then show them a proposal, kind of like off of any idea that I have right on the
100%.
spot.
If you're sitting here and let's say you got a big marketing, or let's say you got a large client, marketing company or whatever, right? And you're wanting to give them a large proposal of new branding or new types of things, right? Rather than just all being on a piece of paper, and we've seen the PowerPoints. You can bring them into the room, and there could be actual objects, mugs to pencils to pens to everything that's all branded with the stuff that you were going to do for them. They could actually see it, oh wow, that's cool. It's a pencil with their name. Oh, that looks cool. The mug with their name on it, right? Like everything, and all you had to do is just have your digital images brought to life through just 3D rendering, right? And now your proposal goes way farther and way in depth than I think anybody else is going to propose to that same company to try to land the client.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think that's
and
powerful.
for very little effort, because you're going to already create those images, right? Now all you got to do is just tell your designers to create them as FBXs or whatever, like 3D images basically, and you could import them right on the fly.
And you're gonna have that be able to, so the ease for the user is very easy to make that possible inside of their worlds.
You're gonna go into your office, you're gonna upload object, and right now it's FBXs. So our objects are all FBXs, meaning that like even the chairs, right, how they turn and swivel and all that, that's an FBX object that then we've we've allowed the computer to give it constraints so that it just swivels but doesn't fall or go up and down. But when you upload your own customized object, it comes in and maybe it floats right above the table, and from there you manipulate size and axes, meaning that you can turn, twist, or move it across the room.
And I think the cool thing is, because I know you showed us, but the user can basically do that from either a 2D or a 3D world, so that everybody doesn't necessarily have to have a VR headset at the moment. Obviously, the experience is way better if you do, because you get a little bit more out of it, but the experience is still a lot better than if you're just presenting an idea, like you said, on paper. Yeah.
By the way, I couldn't remember, were we going to do 3 chairs?
We're going to do 3 chairs, yeah.
This is just, I was
Sage just got me into it, so I was like,
no, I was recording because, I'm trying to just give as much things as possible for you. So I thought that was cool because you were able to explain everything. So I thought that's great content for you personally. And then I could just stop this right now. Excellent. All right.
So what I think was fascinating about this, because I feel like there's some people that just, there's early adapters, and then there's late adapters, and then there's people that they don't realize the power of everything, where this is going. But I thought it was something that you're interested, that you said that kind of like sparked something in me. It's like, you're talking about your kids, like you have 2 teenagers, and they're every day, like, when your idea of hanging out with friends is completely different than their idea. So I just want you to kind of like tell people a little bit about that.
The adaptation to meeting virtually is happening now, right? Our crossover, the learning curve that people need to be experiencing should be now. Learning how to utilize virtual meeting places, how to virtually meet others, how to have these settings. They need to have that learning curve now, because Gen Z coming in grew up meeting and hanging out with their friends virtually. They're used to walking around as avatars. They're used to talking to other avatars. They play games this way. They spend hours and hours a day doing that. My kids are teenagers, and their version of hanging out with their friends is going to their computer. That's how they hang out with their friends. And so we know this. We know it's coming. But then that means then all the providers that are trying to keep a relationship with the different various generations, Gen Z is coming. And so, for example, State Farm Insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farm is having to relook at their entire business model to go, how do we stay connected to Gen Z, the next generation coming in, who's going to be our new policyholders? How are we relevant to them? Because the local neighborhood insurance agent with a brick and mortar building isn't necessarily appeasing to Gen Z. They're not going to go into that office to get their insurance. So unless let's say agency style businesses or businesses that have to meet with customers, unless they adapt, they're going to start losing customers to other companies that have adapted. But yeah, meeting virtually, we already had to experience that through COVID, and that was like a brief stint of us having been forced to do it, but it's a glimpse of how the future is moving. That's the direction we're moving.
Right. So it's kind of about meeting Gen Z where they are, just like how when we were growing up, a lot of our generation grew up on maybe texting or even on the computer. So it's kind of meeting us there, even though the older generation was like, oh, I don't want to, use the computer. I don't want to adapt to that. But then by default, you end up having to anyway.
Right. It's the same exact thing. In the 90s, you spoke to your customers through billboard ads, radio, and TV. Right. In 2000s, that all still existed, except when you cross over 2010, it's internet marketing, and then 2010 and on was also social media marketing. Right. They started now having to get to our social medias, and that was your way to be able to talk to your customers. Nowadays, I don't know too many people that still spend money on TV ads. I don't even know anybody that has a cable television subscriptions. We have Netflix and Hulu, we use internet, and then we have social media. So they've had to adapt. And now you're going to continue that as it evolves, and it's going to be more virtual type experience, right? And that's just meeting the trend of how we're moving as a society is virtual. But aside from that, it's not just that you're wanting to do it for that, you're also wanting to do it for the advantages of having these experiences that you can give to your customers.
Yeah, it's all about the experience, and I think even when you put on that headset and you go into that world, it's like it's one thing to see it, but then it's another thing to be in it, and then on top of that, there's that whole 2D version that you've developed where you can meet people in both worlds. It doesn't just have to be through the 3D or be in it, but you can also be on the 2D plane and really utilize that.
Yeah.
I guess my other question is why should people do this now? Like, what are you missing out if you don't? Like, where do you see this future? Because obviously you're heavily invested into this, and you decided to do this now. So why is that?
So what I've created and developed is like we said before, our base of our platform is virtual offices, and we're actually selling it on a pre-sale at a discount. So you'd buy into the pre-sale because you get it at a discount, significantly cheaper. By the time we launch our version 1, it's almost 3 times the price to buy that same virtual office. Our virtual offices are pretty cheap, only $300 or so at the moment. But we also have use and functionality even in our beta version that we're going to be delivering people next month. So you've got that, you got Zoom. Why do you want to jump in it now? You want, as like I was saying, you start building your virtual office platform and your learning curve of using it so that you're able to now start adapting to the changes that are happening very quickly. Like next year, here's a stat. 1 out of 5 people was using VR headset each month in the US. That's 20% of the people of the population in the US were using an Oculus headset once a month. Now that number was in 2020. In 2021, this increased. In 2022, vastly increased. The number of sales even in Oculus have, I believe, doubled between 2020 and 2021. And so people are already purchasing the hardware. They're already maybe using it initially for gaming. And what we're bringing is utility for a virtual experience.
And where do I get everything as a founder? Because you were kind of outlining all these things, and I was like, wow, like I got to be a part of that and be a founder now before it's kind of like it's too late, right? It feels like I'm hearing about the early stages of this big investment. I'm like, damn, like I gotta get into this. Yeah. So what's like the full everything, the full stack that everybody gets when they're a founder?
So what we did, so like as in any pre-sale, the objective is for the company to raise funds to continue development and then be able to sell at a discount to the customer. And with additional benefits that other people, normal customers, wouldn't get later on, right? That's typically what it is when you buy a pre-sale. So our pre-sale package is you're going to get what is called our Founder Suite. There's only 2,000 of these suites, like period. There will never be any more of these particular Founder Suites. They're like triple the size of what our base suite is. They offer a vast amount of experiences between having an office and a lounge down below to hosting over hundreds of people at your office, multiple workstations so that you can actually have employees working, virtual assistants working in your office, all that kind of things. But some of the other aspects to having the founder's office, aside from it being extraordinarily large compared to the base one, is the fact that anybody in the pre-sale or anybody that owns the founder's office gets everything we come out with for Meta Suites or Meta Offices for free in perpetuity.
Wow.
So anybody that owns an office will just get the extra updates, the downloads, and everything else that we come out with for free. Only the founders get that. Anybody else that's in our, we have 2 other different types of offices, professional, executive. Those are great offices, but they won't be able to enjoy those benefits. And what I mean from that is, we were talking about this before, was a larger scale of what we're creating and developing. The founders get that. So I think that's a huge deal. And again, 2,000 sells pretty quickly.
Yeah,
$300
for sure. So
price point.
we definitely are gonna want the founders suite for sure.
Yeah.
Is it cash or how do we?
So we sell it in crypto or credit card. So you can either buy it with Ethereum or you can buy it with a credit card.
And how soon could I use it as being a founder? Is this something that I can dive right into now?
Yes and no. So we will be releasing. We're going to sell the initial 500, and then we release our beta. And so everybody that has a founders edition will have beta. Our expectation is we're releasing beta next month. So it's not that far away. So you buy pre-sale now, you'll start experiencing the beta version of your office, and then version 1 will launch shortly after that.
And I think you said that you did like just a soft kind of touch out there, so you have already investors wanting to invest into this. People see the opportunity of this, but even on your own personal social media, you sent out a message and you had. I think you told me
100. We sold 133 offices in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then we were testing the water, just kind of see the reaction, and then after that we pulled back because this was in the midsummer, and I wanted to make sure we're a little bit further developed before trying to tell everybody about it and having them wait several more months.
Yeah.
So.
And now this is like the perfect time to get in because this is ready to go full scale kind of, and then it's only going to get better. And I know that you even said at this point it's 300, but I think you said it goes up increments of 40% as it kind of scales up, right?
Yeah, this is just for the founders. So once the founders, there's 1,500 suites that we're going to be selling initially in this pre-sale. Every 500, there's a step increase in price, and it's about 40% step increase. So phase 1's first 500, there's 133 already sold, and so there's 367 I think or so remaining, and then there'll be a step up in that.
Nice.
That's so powerful. So all that tech, all the development that you put in, basically someone can get that at their fingertips, be light years ahead of everybody else in their space for $300 is what you're telling me. And I can have other users be invited. So like if I had 300, I could technically have you guys in that suite with me using my license.
Yeah, and additionally from that, we'll also come up with a light version, phone app ready, where it's just for like the Zoom features. And again, founders get all those things for free. So as soon as we come out with these different types of versions, founders get them for free. Everybody else would have to download it as a normal app from the Apple Store.
So it pays to be early.
Always pays to be early.
Yeah.
Right? That's typically what companies do, right? They give, if they're doing a pre-sales, here's the extra benefits to offset you having to wait just a little bit of time and buying in a little bit early.
Wow.
That's it's been huge.
Yeah.
And I know you want to ask.
Yeah, so I've been curious, how in the world or the universe did you get Meta Suites?
Yeah,
are they coming at you?
I hope they are. I hope Zuck's coming at us. Please tag Zuck in this. We stole Meta Suites from you guys, and we're licensed as Meta Suites. We're LLC as licensed, registered, and everything as Meta Suites. But even the development team from Oculus, some of those guys were asking how we've gotten the name. So
they did. They've already been trying to approach you.
When they came in demo actually,
really,
and they liked it better than their Horizons experience, and one of them was asking, well, how did you even legally have the ability to use this name, yada yada yada. And I just said, oh, you know what, you should tell your legal team we're using it illegally. Please send a cease and desist.
Got him.
So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's good to know, and that's crazy. That's crazy that you own Meta Suites. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So how we like to end this, we had an amazing time. Thank you for inviting us to your house and showing us just the exponential amount and possibilities that Meta Suites is going to offer. And then also, Brandon and I at Netti World, we're definitely going to get that founder's card because that is just priceless in my head.
Before you send us off, Sage, I just want to ask one question because I'm sure that everybody wants to know if they want to be part of this. Where do they go? How do I buy this thing?
Meta-suites.io. So meta-suites.io.
Gotcha. And I can just pay credit card or ETH?
Yeah, credit card or ETH. And so you just click on, you'll see on the top of the page, it says purchase the office now, mint now, or whatever. Click on that, and credit cards or ETH.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here first. So, as always, we like to, send everybody off with our little ending, and on the count of 3.
Yep.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Let's
Let's
go,
go.
let's
Let's get it. See you guys later.